Ronald.
How's it going, Ronnie?
It's going great, other than the fact that I finally got that car I ordered.
Okay.
And guess what? I got fully loaded and it's got a missing button.
What are you talking about, a missing button? That makes no sense.
It makes perfect sense. So in the dash, there are all the buttons, and then there's this one slot that has where there should be a button, but there's no button.
It's one of those like little plastic
Yeah,
plates
like-
supposed to be hide something, and you're like driving you crazy, like, what is supposed to be there?
No, it is driving me crazy.
Yeah. There's a lot of useless things on cars, Ronnie, so I think we should talk about it.
Let's do it.
I don't get that whole like button plate thing. But what about like the racing seats option? Did you get the racing seats option? Like, and so that you can like go race car driving or something? I mean, that's about as useless thing on a car.
Well, the best is when you get the race car seats on a car that doesn't race.
I know.
Like it's on your minivan or
Yeah.
your SUV. It's kind of like the
It's
same
like the
thing.
0 to 60 miles per hour in like a minute, but you got the racing seats.
You know, there's a lot of things on cars today that I think to myself, what purpose do they serve? But
Right.
there's nothing, in my opinion, more frustrating than the backseat light.
Oh yeah.
And you know the one where you have to slide it into
Yeah.
the right place, or it doesn't turn on when the door's open?
Yeah, don't give someone an option back there. That's just gonna kill your battery.
Well, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, you have to have it in the center to turn on, or
Yeah.
the left to turn on, the right to turn on. And if it's dark, how do I know? Drives me nuts.
Okay,
things like that.
here's another one. Third row seating in like cars that have a tiny little trunk. Why put a third row seat back there so you can squeeze your
Sit like
toddlers
this.
back
Whoa,
there?
I'm sitting back in here. I saw a new car, mind you, when I was shopping for a car recently. I found a new car that had a CD player in it. What? And who has a CD anymore?
Yeah. Or what about the rear seat entertainment? So like you're gonna spend like $3,000
Right.
so you can have screens back there to plug in stuff when everybody has a tablet or a phone or something
Totally.
like that that's a couple $100, and you're gonna spend $3,000 to have these screens that are in the back of your car. Completely ridiculous.
Totally ridiculous. It's the same concept, navigation.
Yeah.
Hello,
Yeah.
you ever heard of Waze or Apple Maps or Google Maps? Like, what am I gonna do with this thing?
Oh yeah, and then the car manufacturers create this other operating system that's supposed to be better than your phone. I mean, and so like there's like social media apps and all these things on your
Yeah.
and who has the time to figure all that stuff out?
Right.
So you have all this useless junk on this computer that's on there between navigation and voice recognition. Like you're gonna talk to your car and somehow it's gonna work for you. But then you get these off-road vehicles and they've got like the tow hooks and all these specialty off-road buttons and all that kind of stuff. You know none of those people are gonna use it, but then the car companies are like, well, if you're gonna get that car, you better have those or it doesn't look like an off-road vehicle.
Yes.
And you gotta have those buttons.
Yeah, well, you know, a lot of those buttons, though, are confusing because they use these generic icons as if those icons are the same. But the problem is that every car manufacturer has different icons that they're using.
Yeah.
And so you could have two buttons that do the exact same thing with totally different icons. I'm afraid to touch this stuff half the time. Like, if I put this, am I going to eject out the roof? What is this thing?
No, like half the stuff in cars, I don't even know how to use. I'm pretty computer literate. It's just like because you're gonna spend all your time trying to figure that stuff out. So this is my family car, and I've been driving this thing for many, many years, but tens of thousands of miles on it.
Ronald, I just have a few questions for you. Just a little quiz, we'll call it.
Okay.
First off, the most important one. Do you have a cigarette lighter and ashtray in here in case, you know, you want to light up on the road trip?
Okay, I don't do any of that, but I do know there's one in here because it's the best place to charge my phone. So I just unplug this and I put my phone charger in
I
there.
see.
But you got to be careful because if you go in here and push that in,
Start a fire.
yeah, and then
Right.
yeah, you don't want to do that.
All right, so some obvious ones. I don't know if you can see these buttons here, but,
Yeah.
but these buttons here to me are some of my favorite ones. So what exactly is the bunny hop button? Is that to jump your car?
So I think the idea is if you're going over some terrain that you might want to raise the car up, but I'm not sure why you'd want to lower it down.
I think that's what this button is, where you're crawling over mountains. And this would be what you'd raise it up. This one I think is actually to jump the car.
So actually don't know what that is for. I just kind of like, I said I want them all in a line, and I used to have them in a line, but then I learned that this one over here actually has comfort mode, make the suspension a little kind of squishy, normal or sport, and I feel like I want to be sporty, so I picked sport. But the other ones I put in a line because I think that looks better. I think it looks more symmetrical.
What about this off button? Does that turn the car off, or does this turn the car off?
I know this one turns it off and on because I do use that one.
So what does that one do?
I don't know, but don't touch it because I don't want to turn something off that could be a safety feature or something valuable for the car. If I had a choice between perfectly in line and symmetrical, which is important to me, or being sporty, I go sporty.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. Well, I really do want to push this one the next time we drive and see if it jumps the car.
So one of the things I was really hoping for in talking about this car is, Ronnie, maybe you know a lot about cars. Maybe you could help me figure out what these buttons do. So it's like, here's some over here, like RSCA, like that acronym. And I cannot figure out what that acronym is.
Super Comfy Automatic.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what it stands for.
All right. So that's really the suspension thing.
Off. What's that one all about? Like, is that if you're constipated?
I don't know, man.
Bend over, you push that and it rubs your bum?
I don't want to be constipated, so I've avoided that button.
And does this one say, do not make right turns?
This one I assumed that it would break the transmission, so you don't want to push that button.
What is that one?
I couldn't tell you.
I understand if it were in air, but what's the little, like...
I don't know.
Is that to put up a shield in case something's flying at your face?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's one of those useless things on a car. One thing I really like is... getting a little bit extra light in here, but I'm always paranoid about doing the whole moonroof or like sunroof because there's no like warning if I leave this thing on. So it's like water's gonna come in the car and flood out the car. So I only open it like this. And then also because they've got these kind of buttons here, there's up and down, open, close. That was pretty obvious. I tried that and I know what those do.
I had no idea though that this car was a religious car.
Well, okay, where
like you can only play priest tracks?
That is not how you spell priest.
Well, it's abbreviated. They wanted it to be symmetrical.
Okay, I just thought you didn't know how to spell priest, but that's okay.
Maybe what happens is you are constipated, you inadvertently turned right, you broke the axle, and you needed to pray to make sure you can get out of here without going to the bathroom in your pants.
So I thought this had something to do with like the pursed track, like some kind of like special off-road maneuvers.
Pursed?
Yeah, pursed.
What is a purse?
I don't know, man.
Let's call Mark and see if he knows.
Yeah, that does drive me crazy. Why do I have some dude's name on my car, Mark Levinson?
Why does he have to reference the surround?
I think there are a lot of things on cars that are frustrating, but I think the funniest thing of all time, like absolute stupidest thing that they still put on a car, a cigarette lighter.
Oh yeah.
Who smokes in their car?
Right.
Come on.
Right, those things are dangerous too. You remember that? If the thing's out and a kid puts their finger in there, or like you push it in accidentally, you pull it out. I mean, folks don't know what these things do.
Well, and now on some cars that are a little more forward thinking, like, hey, we don't want you to smoke, they changed the name on it and they now call it like a utility plug. It's like, have you ever heard of a USB? Have you ever heard of a normal power outlet? Like, why even have this coil thing in there?
Some of this new technology is great, and we've talked about those, like all these advanced safety features, great, that's fine. Or even the power windows going up and down, you know, that's a lot more handy, because remember the old crank windows? Some of these cars still have crank windows. So you're trying to drive down the road like this, and you're trying to crank like this while you're trying to drive. I mean, that just doesn't even make sense.
It's like rubbing your head and patting your, like you're having a hard time. What about the things you can't see? Like you get done buying the car and they sell you all these things that protect the car that you can't see, like the undercarriage spray. Has anyone ever been under their car? Or the invisible bug shield?
Yeah.
Like what is happening right now?
Okay, some of these new cars still have those metal antennas. Like why do you need the metal thing? It's just gonna get caught and hit something. You can't go through a car wash. They can be integrated in the car. We know the technology's there.
Do you still have your buddy that is like the car guru?
Jason, yeah, let's go see him.
All right, well, we are here with a treat today. We have an expert on our hand. We have Jason, who has been in the car industry now for 25 years. He has seen 2.5 decades worth of automobile evolution, and he is going to enlighten us now on exactly what some of these things are that Ronald can't figure out.
So I'm trying to figure out these buttons here. Any idea what these things are supposed to do?
Man, all of these are totally new to these new cars nowadays.
Okay.
They've come a long way. These actually go back and forth from your 4-wheel drive to 2-wheel drive. It looks like yours is actually nice enough too to have where you lift your car up and down. It'll actually go, the suspension goes up and down.
It's not a bunny hop button.
No, it's not a bunny hop. You're probably gonna want it in comfort mode if you're riding around on the highway or somewhere. Around town would be sport mode for those jerks that get in your way. You gotta get around them. It's gonna give you more horsepower.
Okay, right on.
So there's a button right down here that's the man having constipation. It looks like he's taking a bath. Like, what exactly is that supposed to represent?
I'm not gonna lie, I have no idea what that is.
Like a bidet.
It looks like a poop out the window.
So my understanding with this button, I believe is the case, is that when you get in the car, sometimes the seat moves back to give you more room to get in.
Okay.
And you can turn that feature off if it drives you crazy that your seat's moving back and forth when you get in and out of the car. I believe that's what it does. The seat moves back and forth, and I like that. So I just didn't want to touch that. I wouldn't. Yeah, I didn't want to turn it off. I'm gonna put my seat where it's supposed to be. Let's test this thing out. I got it where it's supposed to be, and then I'm gonna turn off the car.
Yep.
See, now it's going back, right?
Okay.
Drive me nuts.
Oh, I like that. See, everything moves out of the way.
You get out.
Yeah,
he's a taller guy too.
Yeah, well, there you go. All right, but then let's turn it back on. Brake
And
pedal.
you're just like me. To find out what it does, I gotta push it.
Yeah.
I can't look it up.
Yeah, so now I
Where's the
pushed
eject
it.
button?
Okay, look. Okay, a light came on when I pushed it.
All right.
All right, look
Now-
at that. Now let's turn it off. It's doing it again.
So there's a lot of off buttons in this car. And they
Yeah.
seem to conflict each other. Are they off for the car? Like what exactly are we doing here?
I honestly, the most of the off is going to be for whatever situation you're in. So like you have a high 4, which would be high 4-wheel drive.
Okay.
And the reason why it says push is because when you're in 2-wheel drive or where you're driving down the road, you have to push in. You can't just accidentally bump that button and put it into 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive. You have to push down in order to move it to get it into another
Okay.
situation.
Safety
Yeah.
feature.
So safety feature.
This one over here, I'm really scared of because it looks like it's gonna break something if you push it. What is that?
That one is actually traction control.
Why does every manufacturer have to have a different icon that does the same thing but in different cars? Like it makes no sense. They should just align and say this button does this and it's standard across all the cars.
Well, I believe that seeing that all manufacturers are in different parts of the world, you're dealing with different countries. So, your Japanese models are typically almost the same. You have Lexus, which is Toyota, Honda, which is Acura. If you stay in those cars, most of the time they are the same type buttons, but they all have different settings because they all charge more for different upgrades and,
One of the things Ronnie talked about, it drives him crazy, and it drives me crazy too, is when you have these like button plates where it's just a plate and there's no button. Does that drive you crazy too?
It does drive me nuts.
Yeah.
And it seems like the more expensive cars, the more you find those random blank spots.
Yeah.
This one I'm still curious about looking in. Does that mean you can view sailboats if you press that button?
Well, Jason, if you were to give our viewers some kind of quick help on how to best pick the right buttons for your car and how to kind of navigate, like, do you have favorites out there?
Well, if you go in your glove box, most of the time in the manual, will tell you what every button in here it works.
Okay,
and
look
does.
how thick this thing is.
I would say pick the buttons that you like, the ones that you know that are
Right.
useful. Windows up, windows down, sunroof
Right.
back if you're fortunate enough to have a sunroof. And know the buttons that you need, and you can always find out which ones do what.
Tell us about your business. Like, what do you do now? I know you've had a number of businesses over the years.
Well, now I do paintless dent repair,
Okay.
which is we actually take dents out of cars without having to paint or putty the vehicle. We go in behind the metal and push it out from the back. So it's a specialized process. Been doing it for 25 years. If you find yourself with a door ding or dent from Walmart or Harris Teeter, or you go out shopping, you can always give us a call. We're with Magic Dent.
Man, thanks for having Jason come on. He's a hoot.
Yeah, he's fun. I knew he'd have some strong opinions on this stuff.
Yeah, well, I think anytime you can talk to somebody who's seen cars span through the decades, and they also have great opinions and good logic on some of these things that I didn't know. But
speaking of which, we want to know from you. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of other things that are useless on cars nowadays that is driving you crazy. Leave those comments down below.
yes, love to hear from you. Roll out of here.
Yeah, let's see you later, man.
See ya.
Bye-bye.